So how did we? I'm trying. Oh, so I'm Chris Coccia, and Dave Goldberg. So Dave, what do you do? That kind of a thing. What was it?
Physics professor, cosmologist, and physics professor at Drexel University.
I can call you professor, though, right?
Sure.
Is Dave Goldberg a professor? So Dave Goldberg, what do you do?
What do you do? I study the universe. I study how the universe works. I study where we came from, not as a species, but like as an existent thing, the universe itself, where it's going, how we know all of that, how long it's going to last, which of the many possible scenarios that will ultimately destroy us, not just us, but the entire universe itself. Really, really big picture stuff.
So, right, okay. So let me ask you, so what question did you ask yourself that you went, this is what I want to do? You know,
when I was a kid?
Yeah, whenever you said, I mean, this is, because obviously what you do is not something, you know, it's not just a hobby you pick up.
So for me, I think and I think a lot of physicists, it was sort of those cocktail party questions. I mean, I was a kid, I didn't go to a lot of cocktail parties, but it was those cocktail party questions. Things like, oh, you know, where, you know, does the universe have an edge, for example, right. Or what's at the center of the universe? Or, you know, the universe is expanding, but what's it expanding into? Or can I build a time machine? Or, I mean, there are sort of things that are exactly the sort of questions that even now I run into people and they ask, and had they asked themselves those same questions as a kid, might have chosen and taken them seriously, might have decided, hey, you know, actually I would like to spend my life trying to figure these sorts of things out, trying to really understand them, and ideally trying to convey them to other people.
Right. Here's my question for you. Outside, I see time machines in a movie,
yeah,
and I go, okay, is this just, you know, what we're seeing in the movie, is that even A, close? Is that possible? Is it?
The cool thing is, I mean, there are very reputable scientists who study this, and they say, okay, you know, here I'm going to come up with what the specs for a time machine might be. And indeed, there are people who think about things like wormholes. Wormholes are this theoretical construct that basically say you go in one part of space, you come out in another part of space very distant, and even though you've only traveled, according to you, not very far, you might have traveled many, many light years, right, or thousands of light years or whatever. But if you're able to sort of take that shortcut through space, you've already recognized the distance and time are related, it's possible to construct a time machine. If a wormhole exists, you can make one mouth sort of the future mouth, and one mouth the past mouth, and you can get a little freeway between the future and the past.
And you're shooting, and you, so okay. So, I mean, are we talking like past like hundreds of years?
Arbitrary amount of time. It doesn't, there's a couple of rules that come with it. And the thing I should say ahead of time is, these wormholes, we do not know that wormholes can exist. Most models of wormholes basically collapse immediately, and there's something that we need to have this thing called exotic matter to hold them open. And exotic matter is the sort of name that, like, if you're writing your sci-fi book, you might come up with as like, yeah, sure. Held open by exotic matter. No problem.
Until I come up with a better name, let's just call it that.
Let's just call it exotic matter. Why not? It's good enough.
And then,
So we don't. So I mean, the point is, we do not know that exotic matter exists in any real sense. In fact, all evidence sort of suggests that it doesn't.
Right.
But it's credible enough to say, if this one thing might exist, then there are wormholes. And if there are wormholes, then there are time machines.
Right. Okay. So you get this knowledge, and it's amazing, like, wow, knowledge. What's the practical application? Where do we go with this? I mean, I love knowledge for knowledge's sakes. I love to hear this, and that's why, I mean, I listen to shows sometimes on the radio that I don't understand. I'm just like wowed by that. But then there's that rational side of me that goes, okay, what do we do with this knowledge? Where do I go with that?
We have this picture now, one that we did not have a century ago, about an expanding universe, a beginning of time. We understand more and more how it is that galaxies evolve and stars evolve within those galaxies. I mean, we are understanding very much where we came from as a species, as a planet, as a galaxy, Like those are the big questions.
Right.
So I mean, you could say, oh, basic science is a luxury, but I think it's an important luxury.